Hello and welcome to Public Conscience, the anti-corruption program produced by the Progressive Impact Organization for Community Development, PRIMOG. I am Chidozie Ogbonnaya with Adaobi Obiabomo.
Thanks for joining us.
On Public Conscience, we seek to evolve a corruption-free society by drawing government and citizens' attention to corruption reports and issues for prompt democratic actions against them. We also promote integrity by amplifying rare cases of the display of honesty by public and private individuals. We appreciate the MacArthur Foundation for supporting the production of this program.
Our focus today is on the recent effort by the federal government to sanitize passport application processing in Nigeria and rid it of corruption. For several years, many intending Nigerian travelers have been subjected to tough times in their bid to obtain passports from the Nigeria Immigration Service (NIS). Passport applications in Nigeria have been associated with delays in enrollment, processing and production of passport booklets, which is at the center of extortion of applicants and other sharp practices. A couple of times on this program, we have amplified investigative reports on the challenges citizens seeking passports go through in the hands of immigration officials and the attendant corruption affecting the system. We have also not relented in asking the authorities to take action.
And it will interest you to know that some of the concerns we raised on this program are being addressed. According to the reports we have, the marching order given by the Minister of Interior, Dr. Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo, to the Nigerian Immigration Service demanding the swift clearance of over 200,000 international passports pending applications is already paying off. The service had commenced a 24 hours production of passport booklets to speed up issuance.
The Honorable Minister of Interior, in a recent interview, also reviewed plans to leverage technology to make passport applications seamless and expressed his determination to fight underhand practices by some immigration personnel who extort applicants and delay the issuance of their passports.
As laudable as these plans are, there is need to ensure the momentum is sustained. Today's program, we look at how the Nigeria Immigration Service and the Ministry of Interior can sustain the current efforts and ensure corruption is reduced to the barest minimum in the application of Nigerian passports. For you out there, did you apply for Nigerian passport recently or lately? Have you reason to be at any passport office in Nigeria? Feel free to join us and share your experience. How was the experience out there? How was it stressful or easy? Did anyone extort money from you? How can extortion be reduced to the barest minimum at our passport offices across the nation? And do you even think technology is the way to go? How can we encourage the Minister of Interior in his determination to improve service delivery and fight corruption?
Be ready to join us through phone and text messages during this conversation. The WhatsApp phone line to send your message to is 0902 265 6167. That is 0902 265 6167. Please indicate your name and your location when sending your message. This number is for messages only.
Please begin to send your messages as soon as possible to 09022656167. And that is 09022656167. We will give out the numbers to call shortly.
If you just joined us, we are assessing the federal government's efforts to sanitize passport application and processing in Nigeria, as well as purging it of sharp practices. We will also touch on an investigative report by the Cables exposing how regulatory failure and extortion are turning Nigeria's waterway into death trap. A recent report says over 900 men, women, and children died from 61 boat accidents nationwide between January 2020 and September 2023.
That's a sad one there, Adaobi. These deaths are actually avoidable if only the right things were done. We invited the Honorable Minister of Interior, Dr. Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo, and the Acting Comptroller General of the Nigeria Immigration Service, Caroline Worola Adekboju, to join us and throw more light on the issues around passport application. And hopefully they will join us. But here in the studio, we have with us Program Officer at Step Up Nigeria, Godfrey Etatu. Thank you so much for joining us, Godfrey.
Thank you for having me.
We also been joined by investigative journalist with the cable, Uthman Samad. Uthman, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me. Good morning.
All right. Let's start off with Godfrey Etatu. Yeah, you've been following issues, you've been following the development at our passport offices. Let's have your reaction. How would you react to the recent effort by the Minister of Interior to improve service delivery as well as reduce sharp practices at passport offices?
Okay, thank you very much. In the government, they're just setting up with all the doom and gloom around this government. The Minister of Interior seems to be one of those few ministers that is functioning as a spark, a ray of hope. He has been doing a whole lot since he came on board as a cabinet minister. You could see from his utterances, he's even serving, if you may, as a spokesperson, as an image maker for the government. Because whenever you listen to him speak, you seem to have more faith in the government that they have, and they are probably going to do something right. So with this current order that he gave to the immigrations and the swiftness with which they acted on it, you just have to applaud what he has done, and it's absolutely fantastic.
And it kind of looked like it wasn't in Nigeria, Adaobi, if you ask me.
Yes, he has been in Nigeria, but it's just that...
No, the order, the directive paying off and the clearance of backlog of over 200,000 applications.
The challenge has always been corruption. Recall that on this program we've spoken with investigative journalists who did few reports on how Nigerians are being extorted. People were told that their name did not drop, and that was an avenue for them to be extorted. And some were asked, which officer is currently working on your passport? And if you're unable to provide the details of the officer working on your passport, that meant that you did not give anybody money. And people they kept on postponing. Come back in 2 weeks, come back in 3 weeks. Which goes to tell you that they could have done the right thing, but they chose not to do that because of corruption.
The will to do the right thing and the intention to commit corrupt act. Let me stay with you, Godfrey, because looking at it from where we are coming from, how would you now rate government's effort over the years in addressing corruption at passport offices? Because what we are seeing today, Dr. Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo didn't fall from the sky. It's the same system that he's trying to change. What didn't work before now?
Thank you. Now, what you look at, you see that he gave this order, and in 4 days, according to the news, over 60,000 of these passports were produced. That shows you that the capacity is there. There was no improvement in terms of staff retraining. It's not like new equipment was gotten or anything. In 4 days, 60,000 was done, and in 3 weeks, they cleared up over 200,000. That tells you that the will to do it is just what is lacking. In the previous government, the previous ministers, the focus had always been different. Now, you know that the Ministry of Interior is one of the most lucrative ministries because it gives most of the agencies and parastatals under it a lot of job openings and all that. So most of the ministers before now had been more focused on that, on recruitment, going back to the time of Abamoru. It was their focus. But this minister seems to focus more on processes, and in the shortest span of time you see that it's yielding effort. So it's not that the will is not there. I mean, it's there, the capacity is there. Like you said, he didn't fall from the sky. He has been in the system. He was in the House of Representatives, so he's one of us, and there are people like that walking around. But the will to act is the difference. He has not changed anything. He has not changed the leadership. He has not changed the staff. It's still the same individuals. But just because the person at the helm has decided to act differently, those following, the underlings, are also shaping up.
I am enjoying this story. It's looking like a Cinderella story, which I want to continue. It's a good one that we are having change in our system. No, we are looking for strong institution and not strong individual. And
yes, there's always this conversation around strong institution. Like you said, Godfrey Itatu, the data analyst and program associate at Step Up Nigeria. Now we are seeing a situation where what didn't work before is working currently. Do you also see a situation where the minister would also look at the cost of the production of these passports? I understand that there are 3 categories of passports. You have the one for 21 pages for 5 years validity, which costs 25,000. 64 pages for 5 years, which also costs 35, and then 64 pages for 10 years validity that costs 70. But on this program, we've had situations where Nigeria said they've had to pay over and above the official rates. Is this an aspect that you would want to see the minister also touch on, not just the process or number of days it takes to get the passports?
Absolutely, absolutely. This has to be an issue that he has to x-ray, because when you go to the official website, they tell you this is the amount. When you approach the Nigerian Immigration Service, the headquarters in Abuja, the guys at the gate, the security guys, they look into your car and they ask you, where are you going to? You tell them, I'm going for capturing or whatever. The first question they ask you is, do you have what is the name of the person that is handling this thing? And then once you can't have a name, they'll say, okay, can I give you somebody? So this institutionalization of corruption is actually the biggest problem. So you see somebody paying as much as 100,000 for something that officially costs 25,000. They bring all sorts of gimmicks and all sorts of because your NIN did not do this or this did not that and all that to extort. So the minister has to, as a matter of urgency, institutionalize something that would make this a thing of the past. When you pay online, and that's all the payment you should make. And even the payment online, the 25,000, a lot of people have said for the standard issuance for 5 years, 32 pages, I think it's 25,000. A lot of people seem to even believe that that is still on the high side. And this can be attributed to the fact that these booklets are not made in Nigeria. We have the capacity to make booklets. I don't think there's any special materials in these booklets that cannot be made in Nigeria. But the fact that we have to make them abroad and import them, and then, of course, we know what is happening with the dollar. If we leave that to float, we will see potential increase in these prices. But until we begin to internalize production of these booklets, the prices may not go down, and they are supposed to go down.
They say when you also fight corruption, it fights back. We'll come back and take on what the minister must put in place to ensure that he doesn't drift away, because he has started well, but we don't want him to drift away.
Definitely. This is time for us to bring in Uthman Samad, who is an investigative journalist with The Cable. You're welcome to the program again.
Thank you so much.
All right. In a bit, for us to make a little switch to your investigation, we mentioned earlier about our waterways turning to death traps. Give us details of how regulatory failure and corruption contribute to the deaths on our waterways as captured in your report.
So on June 13, over 100 persons died when coming from Patigi in Niger. They were going on water to Kwara State, and over 100 of them died in a boat mishap. And that was where we got the insights in June. And by August, the Cable newspaper deployed 5 reporters, investigative journalists, to field. We went to Kogi State, Lagos State, Anambra, and Delta and Zamfara, making 5. And what we realize is just a similar occurrence in all these states, in the sense that NIWA, that's Nigerian Inland Water with Regulatory Board, they are meant to be the one that should make laws. But even when we are doing our own desk research, we realize that there is no policy in this country that guides the amount of persons that should be in a canoe, the number of hours they should be on the water, the what's not to be, what should be, nothing is just in place. And we realize that this thing has gone up and up. And the most important, if you look at the story, we realize that when these communities living in the riverine areas are trying to have events, celebration, they pack themselves in numbers like 200, 300, and 400 in numbers into a canoe that should take like 100 persons or 25 persons. And when this what was it called? when there's a bit of wave on the water, all of them get drawn into the water. And this leads us to the fact that if at all there is a policy in place, everybody knows that there should be a life jacket they should wear, but nothing is in place. No policing on the water, nothing is in place. And this is what we try to expose in the story, that lack of policy is killing Nigerians on the waterways, and nobody's talking about.
You talked about policing. Who is supposed to police? Who is supposed to ensure that you don't have, too many people on a boat that is not meant for that size?
So, primarily, NIWA should be the one in charge of this. And to shock you, we go to their main quarters in Lokoja to speak with them. They say we need to get some kind of referral, we need to speak with this person to that person. They are not even on ground. NIWA should be the one policing the waterways in the country for transportation.
From your investigation around, was there intervention from NIWA all through intervention to ensure that boat mishap or boat accident doesn't take place?
The only intervention we noticed was press releases whenever this thing happened. Press releases, no signal on the waterways. The only thing they do once in a while is just to give 10 to 15 life jackets to a jetty that takes over 1,000 persons per day. So nothing is in place. Whenever this thing happens over time, you see them saying this thing is avoidable. It's avoidable if there are life jackets at the jetties, but none. Imagine there's a popular jetty in Lokoja called Ganaja Jetty in Lokoja. It's one of the biggest in the state. Let me say the biggest. And we noticed that for a boat, they make journeys to other side of the river. At least they go on and on for over 50 times a day. So look at that. A boat taking those journeys will take 30 to 35 persons for a boat that is designed to take just 25 persons. To them, accident is a normal thing, which will not be. And these are the things that if I thought there is a police on the water, this will not happen. We noticed something at Pata Beach. Pata Beach is meant to be a depot.
Pata Beach is where?
Is in Lokoja town as well. It's in the heart of Kogi State. Is for them whenever people are coming from communities around the water, when they are coming for the market day, they stop at the Pata Beach for them to offload their local rice to sell. We realize that there is a police body, Nigeria Police Force there, and the moment you bribe them, you can overload. Overloading, the moment they overload and they are traveling back or they are coming for the market and there is wave on the water, they got thrown in the water and many are dying. We did this, we checked the investigation very well. We went to up to 6 communities in Lokoja, for instance, and the case is the same. They are going for wedding, they are coming to the market, they got drawn, no life jacket, everybody died.
So apart from overshooting the capacity of the boats and also the fact that some of the passengers were not given life jackets, were there other regulatory failures that you noticed? Yeah.
We realized that the boats they are using for this transport system, we captured one which is 40-year-old. The chairman of the jetty has been there since 1984, as well, according to what he said. And those boats they are using to date have been there with him since he started as the chairman of the jetty. And these things they are patches on them. When you are riding on them, you see water seeping in, and when it gets too much, it gets drawn. So that is part of regulatory failure that we noticed during our investigation.
Where else do you take this complaint to, or would you take these findings? Because it seems you said, according to you, that NIWA is nowhere near what you're saying. They are not listening. They didn't even allow you to present your case.
Yeah, so like I said earlier, when we go to NIWA, we were told that we need to get approval before the spokesperson can speak with us.
Now, from where?
We need to get approval from the chairman, who was supposed to be in the office in Lokoja at the headquarters, but is in Abuja. So we need to meet him at the Abuja liaison office to take approval from him before we can speak with the spokesperson, so that he won't say what he's not supposed to say. We did this for over a month before we got the story published, and no response from them.
This is not very good for us, but a very good place for us to bring in our listener to join the conversation. A lot has been said. We moved from passport application, what the Minister of Interior is doing, Dr. Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo, the exploits he's doing currently, to the dangers our waterway is turning into death traps. It's a good place for you to join the conversation.
Yes, please follow us on our social media platforms at Official Primorg. Primorg again is spelled Primorg.
And remember that this program is interactive. The WhatsApp phone line to send your message is 09022656167. 09022656167. This number is for messages only. Please begin to send your messages now at 09022656167. And we want you to react to all we've been talking about. And the Minister of Interior sanitizing international passport processing and issuance, and what must be done to promote accountability and transparency in the passport issuance. How can extortion be reduced to the barest minimum at our passport offices? Have you applied for a Nigerian passport lately? Call us and have your say. Tell us what your experience is like. Let's get back to Godfrey Itatu, who is the program officer, data analyst and program associate at Step Up Nigeria. Many thanks for staying with us. I was saying earlier that when you fight corruption, corruption fights back. Going forward, what do you think? Because the minister also hinted that he wants to leverage on technology. I'll come back to the question. Let me take this call. Your name and where are you calling from?
My name is Shedrack.
All right, Shedrack.
I'm calling from Basa Airport.
Okay.
Yes, concerning the international passport.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really certain that extortion is going on in that place. But then, if you know what you are doing, it will not take place. The actual amount, official amount, is 25,300. That is, if you want that of 5 years, is 25,300. So if you don't know, they'll be telling you 40,000 is this one. So me, I did family own my wife and my 3 children. That is what I did. But I only put 2,000 on top for the person still there to do it. But once they do it,
why do you put 2,000 on top?
Were you compelled?
Okay. No, why the 2,000 was that he helped me to put those data inside. Then I printed it for me. That's what he did. But if you don't know,
did he ask for it? Sorry to jump in.
No, he didn't ask for it.
Okay.
He did not ask for it. I was the one though he actually said I should pay 40,000 per one. I said no. I know the price. Because before then I have done my own. So I know the actual price. I told them my wife own and my 3 children own. I will not do that. It's 25,300, the official price.
But have you collected the passport?
Yes, I've collected it.
How long did it take?
It's about 6 weeks before the passport was issued. If you are patient, it's about once they capture you, it will take about 4 to 6 weeks before you collect it.
Is it before the appointment of the current Minister of Interior?
Yes, it was before the appointment.
Okay.
It was before the appointment.
All right. Thank you for joining us and sharing your experience with us.
He said it took him 6 weeks, but after the appointment, the statement issued was that renewal would take 3 weeks, but first-time applicants would take 6 weeks. That is
when Dr. Tunjojo assumed office. So, if you also move from there, let me come back to you, Godfrey Itatu. How can we ensure that going forward, that corruption doesn't find back? Because those people in the system, fighting the system, corrupting the system, they didn't sack them. It's just that a new person, a new sheriff is in town and maybe body language, everybody sitting up. How do we get it right going forward?
Okay, thank you very much. I want to take us back a little to the Corporate Affairs Commission. If you see the news recently, especially on social media, you see where staff of the commission were celebrating when the current registrar left. Like you said, when you fight corruption, corruption fights back. When you cut the source of where people make money from, illicit money, ill gains, they will definitely fight you. You know, this morning while I was driving, commuting to this place, I was listening to the radio, and I was listening to an interview by the minister, and he was telling a personal story that he observed. He was at the international airport, and he went to the visa on arrival section, and he just wanted to see for himself what was happening. There were a long queue of people, right? People sitting, waiting to get visa on arrival. And the person attending to them, sitting in front of a computer that was supposed to give them visa, he looked on her screen and she was watching Big Brother Nigeria. Now, these people will not let you do that when you want to fight how they make money. You know, when she pretends to be busy for a long time, you definitely offer to tip her to make her work faster and all that. So when you want to now take off that, they will definitely fight you. So the minister and this whole system, if structures are not put in place, if all the changes are happening because of the strength of the new sheriff in town, and you know everybody has to act in line, once he leaves, it goes back to business as usual. So until the structure is gotten, until they put proper structures to ensure that these things are done by the books, it's just not going to happen. We've seen it over and over, even in previous governments. A new government comes in, and the first few months, everybody is on their best behavior, everybody is doing right, and then after a while, everybody settles down and becomes business as usual. So until we get that right, this may just be a phase. If the minister does not structure, especially not just the immigration service, but especially the immigration service, if he does not structure it properly, especially from the leadership, it's not going to work. It's not going to last. I'm sorry to say, but that's just the honest truth.
And our prayer is that it doesn't become a bubble, a flash in the pan.
Exactly.
We want it to be permanent. We don't want something that will not last. And that's why I was talking about earlier, strong systems, strong institutions, and not strong people.
Absolutely.
We have a call.
Yes. Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Your name and where you're calling us from?
Yeah, I'm Comrade Israel from Agbara.
From where, please?
From Agbara in Ogun State.
All right. Thank you for joining us all the way from Ogun State. What's your contribution to the conversation?
Yeah, I love the topic you brought in this morning, because it has been a germane issue that has been facing Nigeria. But I love one thing. I must appreciate the current Minister for Interior for taking the bull by the horn, for making it know that passport is a right to Nigeria, not a privilege. And I think Nigerians must wake up in this time that passport is not until you are traveling now before you get passport, in as much as it become a right. And the bottom line is that most of us don't like doing things by ourselves. I remember when I want to renew my passport, I did it by myself online, everything by myself. And I think this minister has come aboard to let us know that we can do it at our home, not until we go to see somebody or agent that will group us. As at now, I think 32 pages of passport for 5 years is 25,000 naira on the portal. So I think this time around, going by this minister involved now, I think Nigeria can wake up again and be confident and guess we can do something to our passport. So I want to encourage Nigeria that we can take this minister for his word. Though he has started very well, I pray we're able to finish very well. That's my contribution.
Thank
Israel,
you so much for your
much.
contribution, Israel. To say he did mention something, that there's no need for third party in your application for passport, and that also goes to corroborate what Godfrey Itatu said earlier about the deployment of technology, which the minister has also said that technology would be deployed. Because in his earlier submission, he talked about interfacing with people. It is at that point that they make you vulnerable. They make applicants understand that you may not be able to do this yourself. And some would say that technology is just a means. It is not an end in itself. These are people that would also man this technology. Godfrey, how then do we ensure that those behind the scene are also not corrupt individuals that may want to subvert the process?
All right, thank you very much. Now, the system really, if you look at one of the theories of corruption, it calls the principal agent theory of corruption, where these people saddled with the responsibility of providing what we need, like government officials, elected officials, are the agents, while we, the people, are the principals. We have the ability to call these guys to curb the power and excesses that they have, that they deploy, but we don't use that. The people, though our voice are supposed to be strong and powerful, we don't actually know how to use that. The minister has talked so much about how to reduce human contact, because that's actually the avenue where corruption happens. And he has said at today's interview that it's only when capturing, the biometric capturing, that you need to interface with any human. Everything would be captured, all the uploads and everything. You just go to do the biometrics. And that is how it's supposed to be. Now, when that becomes public notice. Now, with all the media rounds that the minister has been making, and then programs like this that have been x-raying the processes, people now understand that, oh, I can do this by myself. Before now, most people don't know, and Nigerians are merchants of fear. So when you, and like the last caller said, we only get these things when we need them. We don't get them because these are documents that we should have. As a Nigerian, you're supposed to have your passport. It's a right. It's not a privilege. But Nigerians don't act on it until maybe you have a conference that the office is sending you to, or you are considering the whole JAPA option and you want to leave the country. That's when you realize that I need a passport. And then time is against you. You go to these people and then you let them see your fear. You tell them, I need this thing urgently by this period. It's the same way tailors are. The moment they know you are desperate for this thing, they start, okay, if you need it by this time, officially, it can take you up to 6 months. But if you need it in this span of time, you can get it in this.
So you pay what they call urgent.
Urgent. And I'll tell you something very funny. I know somebody that captured and got the passport in 2 days. In fact, same day.
How is that possible?
It is very possible. I don't know how the system works, but I know the person. This is not hearsay. Somebody that I know that captured and got the passport same day. So this tells you that these things are there. It's just the humans that are making sure that they frustrate the system. Even the 6 week that the minister has said, I mean, in the new rollout that he's trying to do, the 6 week is fair, but it can be done way cheaper. If you consider the use of technology, and I have to bring this here, in certain countries, you don't even interface with humans, even in the biometrics capturing.
So in alignment with what my colleague just asked,
yes,
are you seeing technology as that silver bullet to eradicating corruption in passport application?
Absolutely. Because the more humans are out of the system and you're just dealing with processes, because when you deal with computers, everything has been arranged, it's organized, it's a fluid process. When you interact with those systems and you take out the human interference, everything becomes speed up. It becomes faster and easier.
All right. Thank you for that perspective, but let's come back to Uthman Sama, the investigative journalist. From where we left off the conversation earlier, we left it hanging, and it's looking like we find ourselves between rock and hard place when it comes to solving the problem of death traps on our waterways. No life jacket for people who ply their routes, and the national inland waterways, Nigerian inland waterways, not doing much. So let me ask you now, how do we go about this? What would be your advice to the government?
So even before we talk about the government, I think the citizens are the one that we need to even talk to first. Most of them are illiterate. Most of them are nonchalant. They believe in prayers more than life jackets. Some people believe that the life jacket is for the novice, even when they are provided. So the jetty owners, they feel not to even give them again. And with this, the government is just there. They are not taking any concern about the waterways. the agency that are supposed to do what was supposed to do at the right time, they're not doing anything about it. No policy in place, nothing. I think the best they can do is that whoever that is in charge of the authorities in charge of this agency should shift more attention to it. They can't just leave the procurement of life jackets for the jetty owners. Let's push more attention to. Let's provide life jackets for these people. That alone can get us away from the avoidable death on the waterways.
That's serious.
You mentioned something about sensitization.
Yes.
What is the government doing to ensure that the citizens are sensitized? Are you aware of any?
I'm not sure I'm aware of any. I was saying earlier, we couldn't find a single policy, a single law that binds users of the waterways in Nigeria. We could not find a single law that, okay, if you want to enter, it's a must, you do this. When we met with the head of the Ganaja Water Jetty, we asked them, is there if you join any RTWU, they will give you a pact, a law you need to follow, you don't do this, people need to sign, put their name. Nothing like, what was it called? Manifest, or what was it called? Nothing like that here. Nothing like putting their names down, a rule for the boat rider to do this. No rule. It is all verbal laws. It is all verbal laws and cruise with inshallah on the waterways. If you survive, fine. If you do not survive, fine.
There's a saying that God gives and God takes, like you earlier said.
It's a cruise.
But then,
with inshallah,
safety professionals will tell you that safety first. So
And
that
always.
means some citizens are not aware of their safety. If it can be avoided, we should avoid some of these threats on our waterways.
I also think maybe the National Assembly, their attention should be drawn to the fact that we don't have strong laws and policies to that effect, because we
Definitely.
cannot continue like that. In 2 years, over 900 deaths of men, women, children. It is nothing to write home about.
Go
We
ahead,
can't continue
Mitzman.
like that.
To shock you, to also put your interest about this, look at what happened what caught our attention to the whole issue in people coming from Patigi going to Kwara State. See the number of people that died. The presidency called for an investigation about it. The state government distributed this. Aside from then, have you seen the result of the investigation of about the accident? 2 more, 3 more had happened after then. Nothing, no result of the investigation. Telling you no interest about this issue. And thousands of people keep dying every year. So this is just, they just want this thing to keep happening since they don't have no interest about it.
And back to Godfrey Itatu, that data analyst and program associate at Step Up Nigeria. You earlier said that citizens, or that sometimes when people tend to be vulnerable is when they put themselves in a dire situation, when it becomes very urgent for them to get their passport. So how can citizens be galvanized to stand up against extortion by immigration officials, even when they are desperate to get the documents?
All right, thank you again. When you know what your rights are, you tend to insist on it. I'm glad that a few callers on the program so far has said, I know that it's 25,000. The guy that was, they tried to shake him down to say 40,000. I said, no, I know it's 45,000. I know it's 25,000 because I've done it before. So when this orientation is done and more people are aware that this is what it is, and you are aware, when you know that this is your right, this is the stipulated period that it has to come out, and you time yourself and you plan yourself around that issue, you won't fall prey to this. When you know that this is the amount on the website, this is the amount that it says, you know that there's no way you go there and then because you are desperate you still fall prey. So the biggest thing that we can do is to still continue these conversations, in different platforms for people to understand that this is the law. The moment you go against what is stipulated, you are enabling the system. And once they say, okay, pay this amount, and you are enabling the corruption. The corruption is not one big scary monster that stands somewhere and just do. We are the enablers of this system. If everybody decides that I'm not going to pay, you go to their office and they say, well, because you need it in 2 weeks instead of 6 weeks, you have to pay 100,000. I say, no, I'm not going to do that. If everybody takes the same line, toes the same line and says, we're not going to do this, we're not going to pay, the moment we resist it, Yes, it's going to fight back. They may shut down. They may say, okay, we are closed for the day, or something is not working. But eventually they'll come back, because we know our rights. So once citizens know their rights and stand by it, we can win over the system.
We all agree that this is a problem, but going forward, we should also be looking at what are we doing in making sure that everyone understands the information that we are trying to pass, that the minister is also trying, the corruption he's trying to play. The information is that the passports, you can apply for your passport without paying through somebody. There should not be proxy. You can get it and avoid extortion, avoid bribery. How much are we doing with information? What is your call for National Orientation Agency to do?
Well, I believe that this information has to be decentralized. It has to be broken down to different tiers. It has to be carried out even in different languages. If I'm going to Saudi Arabia, I don't care if I can speak English, because it's not necessary. So this information has to be broken down in local dialects, in local stations, in community radio stations, so that people are aware of these things. If it is not broken down to this level of society for everybody to know, and the NOA has to do a lot more. That's or National Orientation Agency. I don't think that they have done enough in this area of sensitizing Nigerians on their rights and certain processes. They have not done. I'm not a media person, so I may not know if most of these campaigns are on by the NOA, but it needs to be something of a priority for them, because this is giving us a bad name as a country. And when we talk about this fraud in the immigration service, it's not just in Nigeria. It's not just in Nigeria. When you go to Nigerian consulates and embassies around the world, when Nigerians need to renew their passport, you weep for this country. And then people that are non-Nigerians also are seeing these systems, the way they are done there, the way the extortion is done there, and it's so structured. Like you already know before you even approach these consulates and embassies to renew, you just know that this is the norm. So if the NOA begins to do more on sensitizations, on publicity materials, for people to know their rights as citizens, for people to know that this information exists and this is what is obtainable, then we can begin to attack this a bit better.
All right, thank you so much for your submission, Godfrey Itatu, data analyst and program associate at Setup Nigeria.
And we can still take one or two calls before we begin to wind things down.
Your name and where you're calling us from?
Yes, my name is Shepherd.
All right.
There is another way where extortion can go on, but that one is mostly caused by those that need the passport. It is when you want to change your age, the date of birth. It takes more days or weeks or months before they can be able to effect that thing. But the person helping you will not tell you the truth, especially when that thing did not rhyme with NIN. The officer there now will just be extorting, will be telling you different things, and that thing you will not get it on time. So I have seen somebody that came from Benin, he came and he said over the a week again, he couldn't get it. So when you want to change your date of birth, it's a problem. So mind you, if you need it, your date of birth, let's see your date of birth be your date of birth. So if you are changing that, you are changing your name, and which does not rhyme with your NIN, there is a problem. They will extort you. They will collect money from you.
All right. Thank you so much for that. Just to also thank you for your contribution. Just to also add that, yes, the minister has said that reissuance of lost passports and change of data takes a longer time for security clearance. That's the reason given. But it's just for Nigerians to understand that it takes a longer time to get that document when you have issues of this sort.
Maybe by the time we solve our database issue in Nigeria, we wouldn't be having such issue, because at the snap of your finger, if you can get our data, it will do us well. Let's get the last words of our guests as we begin to round up. Let's start from Uthman Samad, journalist with the Cable, investigative journalist with the Cable. Uthman, your last word as we begin to wrap things up.
Hello, you're the last
Yes,
caller
real
for the
quick,
day. You
real
have
quick.
30
Thank you for taking my
seconds.
call. Real quick, my name is Raymond. I'm calling you from Live Camp.
Let's hear you in
So I
30
just wanted to
minutes.
comment on what your guest said last, and I think that's something that has not been spoken about. It's a good thing that the minister is doing what he's doing. I want a situation where it becomes institutionalized, so that even if the minister is not there, he creates a system that is foolproof. So we don't have to be waiting for another minister again to come and do something, or to, because you can imagine there was a minister there for almost 8 years the last time. Why couldn't they solve this passport problem? So they should institutionalize the process he's making now, so that it cannot be corrupted even when he leaves. That's number one. And then number two, again, that people are not talking about is what Nigerians abroad are facing in the different embassies. That is another place I believe the minister needs to focus on, so that he can get people there now to start working properly. Everything, not only in Nigeria, that process abroad is also a sorry process. It is a start process, and that place too is where they need to start to institutionalize the process, so that even people can sit in their homes, request for passport, go and cut that out, not only in
Okay.
Nigeria, but also abroad.
Okay,
Thank you for your time.
thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much.
We have to leave it there. One last word from you. Our time is fast spent. We are totally out of time. But one last word from you.
So, to put things in order, the lapses about the policy is where breeds corruption in the system. For us, the government should try as much as possible to build policies which will put the life of people using the waterways at safe.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us with your perspective and the investigation. This is how we'll be wrapping it up on the program today. Adelby will have to go.
Definitely. Please visit our news website, primorgnews.org. That is primorgnews.org. For all the details of our reports and interviews, visit our website, www.primorg.org, to get all the information about Primorg.
And you can watch our videos on Primorg TV, our YouTube channel. Please subscribe to get reminders when we have a new post. We appreciate our guests. Okay, we're investigative journalist with the cable, Uthman Samad. Thank you for joining us.
A pleasure to be here today.
All right, we also appreciate our guest, our second guest, Godfrey Itatu, who is a data analyst and program associate at Step Up Nigeria. Thank you for joining us.
It was a pleasure being here. Thank you.
All right. Public Conscience has the support of the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation, committed to building a more just, verdant, and peaceful world. Get more information about the foundation on its website, macfound.org.
Join us again here next week for another episode of Public Conscience. And remember to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, which is same as S, and Instagram at Official Primorg. I am Adelby Obiabumo.
And remember that birth registration and birth certificate are both free if your child is under 18. Help stop the corruption in birth registration and do not pay for birth certificates. Also remember that you can give us hints or information about corrupt acts through our phone at 09022656167 or info@primorg.org. I am Chidozie Obonnaya. Stay safe.